I've just been given this bike by Doble's Motorcycles in Causden. Go and check them out if you're in the area. And this today, my friends, is the Honda CMX500, the 500 Rebel. And I've been waiting to ride this bike for a little while. I've always liked the look of it since I first saw it when it came out, and I've been intrigued to ride it. So this will be my first impression and first kind of test ride on this bike, so stick around for the video. So I'm going to take this bike on my little test route round here. It's not probably what this bike's designed to do. I shall take it up here and give you a quick look round of the bike and tell you a little bit about it. But these are country lanes and a little bit of motorway at the end. But it's to give us an idea of what this bike feels like. And straight off the bat, I can tell you it's quite small. I'm 6'2" and I've got quite long legs, so my legs are quite high up on the tank. The beauty of this tank is it points straight up in the air, so my legs don't seem too much at sea. It's like a hurricane up here. They said there would be gusts of about 60 to 70 miles an hour. And I'm really feeling it at the moment, so if I get blown off into the grass, it's not my fault. I can ride, it's just the wind. The engine is very, very smooth. It's the same engine that you get in the CB500F, the R and the X. It's slightly retuned for, I believe, more low down and mid-range punch. So a little bit down on brake horsepower, but slightly up on torque. And it's very, very smooth. I've had a CBX500 before, the CB500X, and I found the engine to be a little bit of a peach, and it seems no different in this one. It's a very familiar feeling. Very smooth, not too much vibration, and the bike feels very light. I mean, for a cruiser, it's quite flickable. I hate that word. It's maneuverable. Let's go with that one. But I wouldn't really put this in the cruiser category. This is an urban street bike. This is not a cruiser. This is not a custom bike. This is more of a town bike. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull up in here and I'm going to show you a little bit around the bike. As you can see, it's bloody windy today. So here we have the Honda CMX500, the 500 Rebel. And it's a good looking bike. I like it. It's very small, but it's very nice. I do like some of the details of it. I like the fat tyres. It's got a 130 on the front and a I don't know, is it 150 on the back? Yeah, 150 on the back, but it's very chunky. And that helps with the suspension. It adds to a little bit of suspension. It makes it a little bit bouncy, but not too bad. You've got to expect that from this type of bike. I mean, it's not a race bike, so you're not going to have decent suspension on it, and it's built to a budget. I mean, look, when's the last time you saw a steering lock that's separate? But I quite like it. It's got a small tank. I'm not going to go over the specs. As usual, I'd rather be riding than giving you the specs, so I'll put those on the screen. So be prepared to pause when I put those specs up now. Yeah, it's got a traditional bulbed headlight, bulbed indicators, bulbs on the back. I think they're missing a trick here, because it's a similar price to the CB500F, and that's got LED lights, so this would benefit from LED lights. But I like it. The engine's really good. It's really nice. It's not powerful, but it's powerful enough to keep you entertained if you're that sort of person that's easily entertained like myself. The exhaust is hideous. That will have to go, and I believe this structure here all comes off quite easily with a few bolts. So once that's got rid of and you can tidy it up, it's going to look pretty good. I think that's the idea with this bike, is you can customize it. It's kind of a canvas to do what you want with it. The backlight is hideous. It's like something out of the 70s. They could have done better with that. But again, I'm assuming they think that all this is going to come off by most people that get it. You've got a key down the side here in the cruiser style, and you've got a simple dash. The dash is just digital. All it's got is speedo on it. It's got fuel, total miles, and a clock, and indicators. Not even separate for the indicators, one for left and right. It's got the idiot lights on, oil, engine management, neutral, temperature, ABS. That's right, comes with ABS. All bikes do now. You're going to have to live with that. If you don't like it, tough. And full beam. Switches are quite simple, old school, but very well put together in typical Honda build quality. I like the tubed swing arm. It's a bit different than the old square one you get from most bikes. It's a little bit nicer. The shock's adjustable for preload only. The front is non-adjustable, and it's water cooled, and there's not really a lot I can say, as usual, because it's the first time I've been on the bike and I don't do my research. I know a little bit about the bikes and now I'm on riding it. It is small. As I said, I'm being 6'2". It's maybe a bit small for me. I could get used to it. I rode a Grom after all, so it's not that difficult to get used to a small bike. I think they missed the trick with this as well. I think that should be either analog, or if it's digital, it should be round digital. But anyway, let's crack on with the rest of the ride. So what I'm going to do now is take it down some country lanes. It's a bit slippery today because it's winter, and this isn't a sports bike, so we shall see how it handles and how nimble it is. Being a typical Honda is very easy to get on with, very easy to ride, very easy to manage the power. It's not brutal, it's quite subtle. Oh, it is very slippery around here. I've got to be very careful because it's a windy day. There might be some trees in the road. Yeah, if you're shorter in the leg, this would be a great bike for you. I mean, I'm quite comfortable. Although it's probably slightly too small for me, I am very comfortable. So if you're ergonomically correct for this bike, this would be a great bike to have. I would like to sit a little bit further back, which is uncomfortable because I'm now sitting on a metal bar. But the good thing about this is it's got kind of mid-mounted pegs. They're not quite forward, they're not quite rear sets. And what this does, it gives you more manoeuvrability, a bit like a Harley Sportster. That's why the Harley Sportster is a better handling bike, or all those Harleys with mid-mounting controls handle better than the forward-facing ones. It means it's more suited to this type of road and more suited to the urban jungle for manoeuvrability through traffic and stuff like that. I'm actually quite shocked at how manoeuvrable this bike is. With these big spongy tyres on, I wasn't expecting this. I mean, they're 16-inch front and rear, which is not too bad. I would prefer 17, but 16's not too bad. But with these big spongy donut tyres, I was expecting it to be very all over the place, especially on these type of roads where they're greasy and very bumpy. I mean, it's very soft on the suspension. It's wallowy, but not wallowy scary, if that makes sense. It's wallowy as in comfort, as in a plush ride. I mean, I wouldn't like to push this through the bends and through a racetrack because I fear you'd overcome the suspension a lot quicker than you would do normally bikes, and the tyres would probably give in. But as an everyday sort of like plod around bike, chill out, relax, go see the sights, it's pretty good. I'm quite enjoying it. And again, I'm quite shocked that I'm enjoying it so much because I don't usually enjoy bikes of this nature. They're not my thing, especially around roads like this. But I have to say, this is pretty good. Because I'm not pushing it, it suits the nature of the bike. And I don't really want to push it. Clutch is nice and smooth. The brakes are nice. Bit spongy, a little bit weak in the sense of what I'm used to with the Africa Twin. But they're adequate for the bike. They stop the bike. It's got ABS as well, so don't be scared of grabbing a handful and just going for it. It will stop. But that's the beauty of this bike. It's simple. Everything about this bike is simple. It's not a crazy bike. It's not full of advanced technology. It's not full of state-of-the-art stuff. It's simple, and what that means is it's very easy to customize, very easy to make your own. I'm sure in the future there'll be lots and lots of accessories for this bike. I'm sure there'll be millions of accessories for this bike, especially in the States and abroad. And that's kind of the appeal of this bike. It's kind of a bike you can just buy and then start making it your own. On these tight, twisty roads, it's nice. I mean, I'm not, as I said before, pushing it, and it's not my thing to push a bike on a test ride unless it's a bike that is predominantly sold on speed and handling, where this bike is not sold on speed and handling. This bike is sold on, it's a commuter, it's comfortable, it's easy to ride, and it looks cool. And it does all of those, it ticks all of those boxes. And now I'm getting used to the ergonomics of it. It's not that uncomfortable. The seats, quite thin, not uncomfortable. I'm not sure how it would be after an hour on it, whether I'll be that comfortable. It could probably do with a little bit more padding, but I suppose you can get a custom seat for that. I don't think it'll be a problem getting a new seat for this. But you've got to remember, this is a budget bike. This is a cheap bike. 5,399 on the road, which is not bad for an entry-level cruiser. I keep calling it a cruiser, I shouldn't. I'm going to call it an urban street, I don't know what to call it. Urban Street Custom. That's what we're going to call it. It's an Urban Street Custom. And it does the job very well at looking good, at slower speeds. I will up the ante when we get onto the motorway and some more open roads, but at the moment it's quite nice to just cruise around and plod around. Comes in 3 colours, which is a matte grey, which is this one, like a gunmetal, and the rear fender's the same colour as a tank. It also comes with a red tank with a black fender, or all black. Right, let's back off a bit and then I can give it some acceleration to see what it's like, because it's meant to be a little bit better in the mid-range than the normal 500s. Not bad. For a little 500, that wasn't bad at all. Got a little bit floaty on the front end, but that's probably more to do with a big donut tyre on the front than the actual lifting in the air. I don't think it was ready to wheelie just yet. Not wrench your arm out the sockets power, but pleasant. You got to remember, this is only a 500. This is an A2 bike, so this isn't a rocket ship. This isn't some kind of drag bike. This is just a little urban commuter. And so far, I love it. So far, I really love it. I do. I have to admit it. It's a really good bike. But then I wasn't really expecting a lot from this bike. When I sat on it in the showroom, it felt really, really small, really tight and compact. And obviously the seat height was very low, and being a tall guy like myself, it felt a little bit weird. It even felt weird coming off of the Grom, to be honest, because the pegs on the Grom are set slightly further back, so it's a little bit more comfortable initially, and you've got more manoeuvrability on the seat of the Grom because it's a long bench seat, so you can move backwards and forwards, where this is just one single seat, so you kind of perch there. But once you kind of get used to it, it's okay. I thought I'd be getting cramp in the legs, but I'm not. It's quite nice, and the engine doesn't sound too bad considering it's a stock exhaust, and I have to say that exhaust is pretty horrible. It sounds okay. Let me pull the clutch in and give it a rev. I mean, one thing I would add to the bike, especially for a new rider, is I would put a rev counter on the dash, and I'd also put a gear indicator. Those two things are lacking on here, and I find that handy. I mean, you will know when you hit the rev limiter, because it bounce about a bit and it'll sound like weird, like a little tiny machine gun. But it's unlikely you're going to get up towards the rev limiter, because it's not that type of bike. This type of bike is for sitting around cruising, and you tend to short shift on this type of bike. It's nice. It really is smooth, and I think that's the beauty of having a parallel twin. It makes it so much smoother. There's no jerkiness in the throttle like you get with some V-twins. It's a pleasant sound. You don't get that V-twin sound, so you don't get that the thump you get from a V-twin. It's a more sedate sound, but it's pleasant. I reckon round town this thing will be awesome. I'm not going to take it there today because, as you know, I hate riding in traffic, and I much prefer riding these country lanes. The biggest criticism at the moment is the suspension and the front wheel feel. Because of that big donut tyre, it's a bit vague on the front end. When you're kind of hammering it over bumps like that, it kind of wobbles a little bit. Not disconcertingly, not scarily, but it just floats a little bit. So if we're in the mood for blasting around, it's probably not the bike for that. Right, wind blast at the moment is not too bad. I'm getting it in the face and across the shoulders and that, but it's not bad. It's a pure wind. It's not like you've got a windshield and it's concentrating all the wind on your crash helmet, so you get buffeting. I've got no buffeting. It's a pure wind, so it's acceptable, like you would get from any naked bike. It will keep the speeds down, but as I said many times in this review, it's not a speed freak bike. It's a cruising bike, so it's designed to chill out and for urban traffic, so you're not going to worry about the top end rush and the speed you're going to get. I mean, I am built like a sail, so I'm quite wide in the shoulders, so I'm not ergonomically the best design for this bike, but it's not bad at all. The wind blast is not a killer. It's not creating so much annoyance that it would actually put me off the bike. Its low speed balance is really quite good. The engine is really low slung in the frame. It takes no effort at all to keep it upright. It doesn't want to fall over. Yeah, some bikes at slow speeds want to tip over, so you kind of have your legs ready to balance it. But this one at slow speeds is absolutely brilliant. I mean, virtually 2 miles an hour and you're still sitting bolt upright and rolling, and you don't even think about sticking your legs out. It's that well balanced. Right, the petrol lights just started flashing. so I hope I've got enough juice in it to get me down one junction of the motorway. I don't know what the reserve is on this. Hopefully it's about 30 miles because I'm about 5 miles away from the shop, and I want to give it a little bit of a gun on the motorway to see what it's like at motorway speeds. Just starting to get cramp in the hips now. This is why they call these hipster bikes. I would put some pegs up front. I'd put some highway pegs so I could sit like that and relax, or maybe some forward controls, give it that full cruiser look. I'm just keeping my toes on the edge of the pegs at the moment to remind me how much ground clearance I've got, and so far it's been pretty good. I haven't ground out the pegs. I haven't really had the opportunity to throw it around any tight bends or really sort of like try and ground out the pegs because it's not my bike and that's not my place. So as I said, I've got my toes on the edge, and I've touched once with my toes, and that was quite a good lean angle for this type of bike. Right, so let's get her up to motorway speeds and see what she's like. Right, so here we go, 70 miles an hour, and I have to say the wind blast is not that bad at all. It's much better than I thought it would be. I actually had more wind blast on the NC750X with the screen on because it directed all the wind into my crash helmet, where this gives me an even spread, and there's actually nothing here. The wind hits mid-visor, but here it's absolutely still air here. It's bizarre. You would expect to have a lot more wind blast from this type of bike, but it handles really nice. It doesn't feel floaty at all. I mean, I'm sitting at 80 miles an hour and it feels quite confident here. It's probably got a little more in the tank. I reckon you could push this quite easily up to 100, maybe 90 to 100, but it sits quite nicely at this 75 miles an hour. It doesn't feel like it's straining at all, and I'm quite impressed by that. I wasn't expecting it to feel like this. I was expecting it to feel absolutely gutless because of the way it's retuned. So now I'm going to take it back to the shop. That's kind of my test ride done. I haven't got it for long, as I said. I'm now about to test ride another bike, but I do have to say I'm very, very pleasantly surprised by this bike. So in conclusion, would I buy one? You know what, I would. I love it. I really would buy this bike. It's something you can ride, and it's also something you can muck around with in the garage and personalise and make your own. So overall, I'm very, very impressed. The ergonomics and comfort of it, I think, will grow on me once I get used to it. It's a little bit small for me, but I will get used to it. Like I said when I bought the Grom, it's a little bit small, but I got used to it, and I can ride the Grom all day long now. And I think I could do the same with this. And I think on a nice day, a nice sunny day down the coast, this bike will come into its own. And a nice cruisy day, I'm not sure how cool I look on it. I probably look like a gorilla on a tricycle, so I'm probably not the kind of coolness that Honda were thinking about when they launched this bike. I don't look like the posters do. I probably look like some kind of praying mantis, but all in all, I love the bike. I really, really love this bike. Weirdly, I love it. Would I replace the Grom with this? Do you know what? I would. So on that note, I will bid you farewell. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to my channel, share this video, tell all your friends, tell everyone you know. Go and check out the Chronicles of Mr. Fish. You know you want to, and you know, as always, I love you all. Stay safe, fish out.
Get all your bags, get out my house. I don't want your stuff around. I never did you wrong, but you did me wrong. So go ahead, get gone. Get all your bags, get out my house. I don't want your stuff around. I never did you wrong, but you did me wrong. So go ahead and get